Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Amogh Chitkara and my study is basically looking to understand mental health literacy and mental health management skills in higher education pastoral carers. The topic I've chosen to go with is, are we literate enough? Thanks for stopping by and I hope you have a nice time during my presentation. Right, so today the presentation is going to flow in this manner. First, I'm going to start off with the introduction, then I'm going to cover a bit of the study design, I'm going to introduce the hypothesis, and then establish the need for the study along with a few potential benefits that can be accrued by the study as well. Thereafter, I'm going to discuss my results with you. I'm going to analyze some independent items from the questionnaire and plot them on like graphs and stuff to show you the level of engagement I received and perhaps the amount of potential stigma around engaging with mental health questionnaires. Lastly, I'm going to follow up with a discussion and a reference list. So I hope you enjoy your time here. For a basic introduction, as you can see, that research has found that a weak psychological constitution has a severe impact on academic prowess. Now, it can also impact students to the extent of them wanting to quit higher education as well. Right. This finding has kind of created a demand for an improvement in the curriculum and environment at higher education to cater to the mental health needs of the student population. Now, in terms of the university or higher education atmosphere, the teachers are essentially primary points of contact for the students to access, whatever services that the university provides. So essentially, the teachers become your first point of contact. Uh, and this basically runs through the entire journey of the student's personal and professional development whilst at university. Right. So, in terms of teacher being the first points of contact, it has been found that students or people in that age group usually tend to seek out help from those closest to them in their closest circle or their immediate circle, rather than going to qualified professionals like a GP or a counselor. A student would prefer seeking help from maybe someone in their family or someone in their friend circle. Now, this this finding, yeah, it makes the notion of signposting even more important, because if the students are accessing their immediate circles for help, then their immediate circles need to be aware of how to help them. Therefore, signposting is introduced into the equation. And in terms of university life, teachers become that immediate circle which the students kind of access to discuss, maybe stress or mental health issues that they may be facing during their time at university. So, as explained above, the study aims to explore the mental health literacy and mental health management skills in higher education pastoral care providers. Now, to do the same, it's adopted an open-ended, inquisitive approach, followed by which the results have been analyzed to understand the correlations between the variables that have been kind of decided for this study. Lastly, the study adopts an opportunity sampling approach wherein the participants were recruited via word of mouth or through academic registries via email. Now, the breakdown of the variables has been explained on the next slide. So, as can be seen, the hypothesis is that there will be a positive correlation between mental health literacy and A. Mental health training, B. Confidence in delivering pastoral care and providing mental health support, C. Comfort in discussing emotions and mental health issues, and D. Likelihood to self-disclose one's own emotions and mental health issues. So basically, mental health literacy is being measured against the amount of training, the level of confidence, the amount of comfort, and the likelihood to self-disclose. Right, so in terms of an actual need for this study, reviewing a couple of WHO reports, it was seen that at least one third of university students endure like mental health disorders or symptoms of them for a year or perhaps even longer than that. Secondly, the increase in mental health problems in young people at university is being seen as a global trend and not just like as a specific trend. This global trend has been seen arising in Australia, in researchers in the US, and in the UK, right? So, a basic notion that has been established around this is that the transition from adolescence into early adulthood is maybe a distressing period because of the economic and emotional demands of the process. So, in terms of what benefits can be accrued from the study, perhaps understanding mental health assessment and the needs of people around us can help us improve academic performance of the students. It could also prevent, studentships from being terminated, and all of these ideas are once supported by research. In addition to which, a combination of increased emotional resilience resulting from student counseling and the resulting reduction in psychological distress have been seen as positive effectors of academic performance as well. Lastly, in Wallace's study, about three-quarters of his sample reported that student counseling actually helped ensure that they remained at university. So basically, through this study, we're hoping to increase the understanding around mental health literacy and mental health management skills in pastoral care workers. Now, as much as in the previous slide it was shown how mental health facilities have helped students, continue at university, in this slide we can slowly start through this slide we can slowly start discussing the results section. Now, what is happening here is that I've picked up a few questions, like basically a few items from my data, and I've plotted them on graphs just to give you a basic idea of the engagement that I've received from my participant base. In this particular case, you can see two items from the questionnaire. The first being seeing a mental health professional means you are not strong enough to manage your own difficulties. And the second being, if I had a mental health illness, I would not tell anyone. So basically, in terms of the results and what you can see on the bar graphs, there is a very high level of no engagement at all with these questions. And out of those who've engaged, uh, the levels of literacy around mental health don't seem to be very high because both of these categories have people agreeing to the fact that seeking help would reflect negatively on you, and secondly the stigma around mental health as well, because people have answered that they are in complete agreement. Sorry, more people have answered that they're in complete agreement as opposed to those who are not. So as you can see, there's about close to 30 people who are in agreement with these statements in the first question, and there's about 15 people in agreement that they wouldn't tell anyone had they been suffering from a mental health illness. You can see a very similar trend being replicated in this slide as well, wherein the conceptions people have about mental health or those suffering with mental health are a bit skewed, because over here in figure A you can see that more people believe that individuals with mental health are dangerous as opposed to the number of people who do not believe that. And again, lastly, you can see the lack of engagement altogether as well with these set of questions, which is why the bar is spiking up to an infinity curve at the very end. That is basically a lack of engagement from the participant pool. But in terms of those who have engaged, they do feel that people with mental health issues are dangerous, and it is best to avoid people with a mental health illness because it may be contagious. To add on further to the results, previous results, basically when asked about, ever disclosing their feelings to a student, out of a total answer pool of 71 people, it was seen that only 8 people do this on a regular basis, right? Moreover, on the figure on your right hand side, you can see that 72% of the population has never been diagnosed or has never managed the symptoms of a mental health disorder themselves firsthand. One question about formal responsibilities around pastoral care and the frequency of contact with students. It was seen that a large majority did actually have a formal responsibility of being pastoral carers. However, around half of the population also seemed to never have had the responsibility. Moving on, in terms of contact and frequency of contact with students, it was seen that only about 5 of 71 respondents were in contact with students every day, and about 24 of them were in contact with students at least once a month. Now, just to add on further to the idea of frequency of contact between staff and students, as you can see in both these figures, only about 8.6% of the total respondents actually have daily contact with students, whereas about 33% of them on the figure on the left can be seen to interact with students at least once a month, whereas on the figure on our right, there is a higher percentage of people interacting with students once a year than they do once a month. So this should give you a fair idea of, the contact hours between pastoral carers and students at university. Right, moving on to the aspect of mental health training. When asked about having received mental health training specially focused to support students, it was seen that a small chunk of the participant pool had actually received training in the last year, and a large majority had actually never received mental health training focused on students, and it was, I think, only about a quarter of the participants who'd actually received training within the last 5 years. And this is training around around supporting student mental health and creating mental health awareness. Now, when asked about having disclosed their own mental health difficulties to student, it was seen that 64% of the participants said that they've never done that. The above discussed attitude towards lacking disclosure around mental health issues could be potentially explained by this slide, wherein it is believed that the support received from mental health professionals would not actually be effective, and people wouldn't want to go ahead and approach a mental health professional as their first option. And that is actually a very sad and concerning reality, to be very honest. So, in terms of giving like a more grounded analysis, there was a free text response section that was at the end of the survey, and just analyzing the free text responses, these themes have come up. So you can see that there are themes around student support, mental health training, student experience, feelings, basically mental health issues like anxiety and the difficulties that students face around mental health. And all of this stuff is basically come out of about 70 responses, and even though it's not a very large sample, you can still see the breadth of issues pertaining to mental health and university students that can be reflected clearly in this word cloud. Furthermore, there are basically themes around increased need for mental health training and supervision, also the need for destigmatization and an increased awareness about mental health. that have kind of popped up in our free text responses, and they've been kind of brought together for you in the table in front of you. So now, after having tested our hypothesis through running correlations, you can see in the table in front of you that when controlled for mental health literacy, there seems to be no correlation with mental health literacy. Rather, there seems to be a strong correlation between the variables of confidence, comfort, and disclosure. So this is something that has kind of defeated the hypothesis and was an unexpected finding. And the discussion of section following this slide will help elaborate on this further. Right, so for our discussion section, it was clear that no significant relationship was seen between mental health literacy and any of the other variables. Moving on, the research, additional research has shown that perhaps the sample size may be a key criteria for there being no correlations, because a size of 70 is just not large enough to ensure adequate accuracy in terms of estimation. Beyond that, even though none of the hypotheses were met, yet there were some interesting unanticipated findings where there seemed to be an effect of training on confidence, which was earlier not seen or not posited by the researchers. Furthermore, the variables of comfort, confidence, and disclosure seem to share a strong positive relationship amid themselves. And these two could be potential avenues where further research could be taken forward, and various reasonings could be explored there. Lastly, the qualitative aspect brought out themes around the need for additional training and awareness towards increased mental health literacy and better mental health management skills. This is supported by the idea of destigmatization around mental health, which evolved as one of the subsidiary themes as well. So, all in all, that is pretty much my study, and it is unfortunate that there was no correlation, but maybe this is something that could provide direction to future researches, and that is what I hope to contribute to the field in the longer run. Uh, Following is my reference list, and if there are any questions, you can redirect them to the chat function onto your right hand side. I hope you enjoyed your time here, and thank you so much for watching my presentation. Cheers!